Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast today with Jacob Magaran.
Colin Richardson.
And welcome back to another week of NFL recaps and picks. Of course, we had a lot of fun talking about the NFL last week, going into a big week of just a lot of fun games. You get the Thanksgiving games, which everybody always enjoys. You know, you're sitting down, you're eating that Thanksgiving dinner, you got these games on, and actually, it was a treat. A lot of these games are really good, and surprisingly enough, the one at the end of the schedule was the worst of the three. But we will obviously talk about that in just a second. If you guys are here, like, subscribe, comment, helps the channel a ton. Our last college football pick'em that I just did really well on the channel. Nearly over 100 views. I had a ton of comments, a lot of likes. So people were enjoying that, getting onto the channel, getting some traction. So hopefully we can get some people over here to this too. And our mock drafts, they've been crushing. Those are probably my best videos on my channel. So we'll look to pump out another mock draft really soon. Maybe sometime this week if we can get a group together and film it. We'll dive into these Thursday games, Thanksgiving games, starting off with a classic. The Detroit Lions, of course, playing on Thanksgiving, and they take an L here to the Packers, who win 31-24. And the Packers had a shaky moment in the middle of the season where we kind of said, maybe they're not a Super Bowl contender. They've looked like it again, and they just had to figure out an identity on offense that didn't include Tucker Kraft because he's done for the year. So with that happening to them, they had to adjust, and they have adjusted very well. They figured out how to get the ball to a different group of running backs. I mean, Josh Jacobs still is the leading rusher, but found Emmanuel Wilson last week who had an incredible game. They also get a healthy Christian Watson that returns to this offense and has kind of stepped up and been a wide receiver one. We always make the joke that they have six wide receiver twos, but no wide receiver ones. They finally have a guy that's kind of stepping up and taking that role. But it's been really fun to watch Jordan Love this year. Four touchdown passes was a career high, or at least ties a career high for him. So really, really impressive against the Lions defense that has looked pretty good at times this year. Going over to the Lions side, the big story for them is obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown is unhealthy, and it's in a bad, bad way potentially. He was unable to practice all week, which when we make our picks later, we could possibly talk about him missing that game. And if that happens, the Lions are kind of they're teetering on that line of falling out of the playoffs at 7-5. You see Jared Goff has a really good game here, 20 for 26, 256, two touchdowns. Basically throwing half the passes to Jameson Williams, who has his breakout game with Amon-Ra on the sideline, 7 for 144 and a touchdown. He was incredible, but it wasn't enough. And the Packers and their really good defense with the superstar that Michael Parsons is able to get it done. He was kind of the MVP of that game. You had the interview they do after the game where they give him the turkey because it is the Thanksgiving game, and he had some complaints about the turkey last year, and so they were like, "We fixed it for you, Micah. We knew you'd be here. You're the MVP of the defense." So it was pretty fun to watch that interview after the game, and he was really really good in this one too. So impressive victory by the Packers. Colin, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, another good win there by the Packers. Like you said, about mid-season, we were kind of wondering if the Packers were legit, and I think they've kind of proven that over the past few weeks. Huge win here, and I'm kind of surprised by the Lions. Honestly, they were probably one of my Super Bowl favorites going into the season, just how good they were last year. And then another crucial injury for them with Amon-Ra going out, crucial for my fantasy lineup as well. But Jameson Williams did step up for them in a big way. I know he's had some really bad games over the past 3 weeks. I think just fantasy wise, he's had 0 points for I think two out of the last 3 weeks, and then he steps up for Amon-Ra when he goes out for 7 catches, 144 yards and a touchdown. So that's good to see for the Lions that they have someone to step in. He's obviously not Amon-Ra, but he can be productive for them. So it's not like they don't have anyone out at receiver. So they have another option there. And then it was huge for the Packers getting Josh Jacobs back. You can see offense puts up 31 the first week he's back. He's a huge part of that offense, and unfortunately that they lost Tucker Kraft because he was becoming a huge part of the offense as well. So it'll be interesting to see maybe next year when they get him back how good this Packers team can be.
Yeah, absolutely. They will be a force to be reckoned with until this team breaks apart. The pieces that they have right now are really good. They have a draft pick in Matthew Golden, who still hasn't even got going at a high level, and he's only going to get better the longer he's in the league. So that was their attempt to try to fix that wide receiver room. But luckily, they've had a guy come from inside the franchise, inside the program already, step up and be the dude for them this year that they absolutely needed on that outside. We'll roll on into this next one here, a game that had massive playoff implications. This is one of the most important games that was going to be played on this Thursday. And the Chiefs drop a game to the Cowboys on what can only be called Prescott magic, they say. That is the Mahomes magic that he always has making plays. Well, Dak Prescott is able to do it in the fourth quarter, get it done when it mattered most. The team actually held a lead for a lot of the game, but it did take a late rally. You see CeeDee Lamb finally becoming the number one guy again in this offense because how do you defend them? If you double team CeeDee, Pickens goes for 100. If you double team Pickens, CeeDee goes for 100. It's just impossible to stop those two receivers unless you have two premier top end corners. And there's not very many teams that have that. So you see Dak goes 320, two touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb, again, 7 for 112 and a touchdown. They still have great performances from other players as well. Ferguson has a nice game, does have a touchdown get called back, but he made a really incredible catch and just wasn't able to possess through the out of bounds marker. But a really overall impressive victory because the Cowboys offense did it and they were able to make stops in the second and third quarter, but the first and the fourth, Mahomes was doing his thing in those two quarters. So it was interesting to see how Dallas's defense was able to get on the field and make stops here and there, but earlier in the year, if they'd have played this game, they wouldn't have been able to make stops. So it is impressive that they're doing it now. For the Chiefs, there is some interesting implications with this game. Like I said, they're now 1-5 away from Arrowhead. That's not great, especially because now there's probably 0% chance you're playing a home playoff game because you just have to go on some insane run, and Denver would have to fall off a cliff. So if you're away in the playoffs, that doesn't bode well for you. But at the same time, they might not even make the playoffs, which is an insane thing to say because the Kansas City Chiefs, since Patrick Mahomes takes over, have won AFC championships or at least made AFC championships. So that would be absolutely unheard of for them not to make the playoffs. But their path is really tough because they still play the Chargers in division. They still play the Broncos, which they lost to last time. They still have some tough matchups, and on top of that, they don't have any tiebreakers. They lost to Buffalo, who's sitting around the same area as them. They lost to Jacksonville, who could potentially be sitting around the same area as them. So, with all those tiebreakers not going in their favor, they have to have more wins than those teams. It's hard to get that. They probably need to win 4 of the last 5. Me and Colin talked about it. We looked at the schedule prior to filming, and if they don't win 4 of the last 5, it seems like this is not going to be a playoff team, which is really, really insane to think about because, again, they just have never missed the playoffs since Patrick Mahomes took over. So, interesting stretch to finish the season. We'll see what the Chiefs can do. And the Cowboys, can they keep it rolling? They do look like a playoff team right now. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, really impressive win there by the Cowboys. I don't think really many people saw this turnaround coming from the Cowboys. They did pick up some pieces at the trade deadline with Quinn Williams, but I mean, it's kind of like the defense has done a complete 180. I mean, they're still not premier defense, but they've been much, much better since the trade deadline, picking up Quinn Williams and there are other pieces they got as well. So good job there by Jerry, honestly, at the deadline, picking up some pieces. He turned around from losing Micah, maybe got a little bit of the fan base back there. I know, but before the season even started, they stole a receiver for a third round pick. So he's turned into one of the best receivers in the NFL now. And then, like you said, with the Chiefs, I mean, they might miss the playoffs, which is really crazy to think about. Like you said, I mean, Mahomes has been in the AFC Championship every year since he took over at quarterback. And I mean, it's not like they're having a bad year either. Like offensively, Mahomes is still doing his thing. And I mean, Kelsey's having a resurgence for Rice since he's been back. He's doing good. I really don't know what the what the deal is with the Chiefs. They kind of lost their black magic. I guess they gave it to Denver this year.
Yeah.
So we'll talk about that game later. But I think Dak Prescott, if he was not on the Cowboys, if he was on really any other winning team, which the Cowboys do have a winning record now, but he would be in MVP conversations for sure. He's having a great year. So shout out to Dak there and a really good win there for the Cowboys.
Yeah, and I've always been a Dak Prescott defender. Not that I like the Dallas Cowboys, not much of a fan of the team, but people disrespect Dak Prescott way too much. Saying he's not a top 15 quarterback in the NFL is just a joke. If you believe that, I'm sorry, he's a top 15 quarterback. I would argue he's a top 10 guy. I've always argued that. So you now see it really coming to life with the offensive pieces that he was given in this offseason. They go out and draft Ferguson just a few years ago, which gives him a top tier tight end once again. And then he has CeeDee Lamb, who is obviously incredible. And you get Pickens, like you said, with an absolute steal. But he makes all these guys play better too in this offense. It is a high powered offense, and he still brings a little bit of that rushing upside here and there. I mean, he scored a rushing touchdown 2 weeks ago. So, Dak Prescott, yeah, you're right. If this team was 9-3 or whatever, they would probably have him towards the top of that MVP conversation with May and Matthew Stafford. So we'll look down at this next one here. Bengals taking on the Ravens in a very important divisional matchup, and the Bengals wiped the floor with the Ratbirds. I get to call them that yet again because they can't find a victory over the Bengals of all teams, who have arguably the worst defense in the NFL. I think the Titans are down there with them with our third, fourth string corners that play on the outside, but the Bengals don't have a good defense, and they're able to limit the Ravens to 14 total points with a healthy Ravens offense. Now, healthy is not the word to use for Lamar Jackson currently. He's playing, but he is definitely not a full go. Does have issues. He has no rushing statistics to really talk about this season. That's what me and Colin looked at before we started talking today is he hasn't scored a rushing touchdown since week one. That is a huge part of the Ravens offense is the read option game and the college style offense that they were able to run with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry last year, which led to him being an MVP candidate and the Ravens being one of the best teams in the league. That isn't there anymore because of his injury, and it is limiting that rushing attack that they have because teams just sell out and stop Derrick Henry and don't even have to worry about Lamar anymore, which is a really bad thing for the Ravens. When it comes to pass catchers, they don't have a top end outside guy. They have Mark Andrews, who's kind of stepped back up and been good over the last few weeks. Isaiah Likely was the superstar in this game for the Ravens on offense, but there's not a lot to talk about here. They just got embarrassed, and they needed this win desperately, especially when the Steelers, which we'll talk about in a minute, didn't separate themselves from the Ravens. But on the other side for the Bengals, they asked Joe Burrow before the game. They said, "Well, why are you playing? You don't need to play. The team is pretty much eliminated. They're not yet." And he just said, "Getting paid millions of dollars to play a kid's game." He said, "Well, what do you mean, why am I playing? It's my obligation to play." So I love that from Joe Burrow. And then he comes out here and plays like this, which is the Joe Burrow that would have probably had this team competing even with the crap defense that they have. So goes for 261, 2 touchdowns, not the greatest completion percentage, but he did his job. He got him the win. Chase Brown was really good, and then Jamar Chase. We both talked about it. Him coming off of a break, which it was a suspension break, but any break at all, is not good for the other team because he's going to be, first of all, fired up and ready to go because he's had to sit on the bench, but also he's rested. He doesn't have any, fatigue from the prior game. So you get a healthy Burrow, which seems like he's probably 90+% healthy. He looks really good out there, and a healthy Jamar Chase coming off of a break. It is a dominant victory for the Bengals over the Ravens. And I don't know what to say for the rest of the year with that division. Which one wants to pull away? Ravens, Steelers. Those two games between each other are going to be the two most important games that they play the rest of the season. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, how about the Bengals defense really turning around there, forcing 5 turnovers, and kind of held Lamar at check. He probably had one of we said last week had his worst game of his career. This week, arguably just as bad. So, 2 really bad weeks there for Lamar, and the Bengals get a big win. Like you said, they're not out of it yet. If they win out, they have a shot of making the playoffs. And I mean, with Joe Burrow, anything can happen. He's an MVP candidate year in and year out. So he was off on a few of his throws, but I mean, it's his first week back in 9 weeks or however long he was out. I did not realize how long you could be out with turf toe. I didn't
Mhm.
I didn't realize it could be that serious of an injury, but good to get Joe Burrow back since the Steelers have finished playing the Bengals now. Uh, although Joe Flacco did torch the Steelers once, so they didn't get a completely bad quarterback play. But uh, like I said, big win for the Bengals, and they did this without T. Higgins as well. So I mean, Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, arguably the best 1-2 punch in the NFL, probably behind CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, but. I mean, a really, really good receiving core there in Cincinnati, and they were able to get Chase Brown going again. He's kind of struggled this year, so I guess maybe getting Joe Burrow back, the more of a threat through the air. So they had to respect their pass game a little bit more and got Chase Brown going. So, like I said, big win for the Bengals. Bad loss for the Ravens. They really could have pulled away in the division, and they were unable to do so. So, thank you, Bengals.
Yes, yes. The Bengals are your friends right now because, again, you don't have to play them the rest of the way. So all they can do is help you out by beating the Ravens or divisional opponents in general. They will play again later in the year, and you would think the same outcome is potentially there. Depends on how healthy Lamar Jackson is. We'll move on to this Black Friday football game between the Bears and the Eagles. And I picked the Eagles. I thought they would be able to bounce back and win this game. The Bears are maybe legit contenders in the NFC. And if you watch the first 3 weeks of the season, you wouldn't say that. They didn't look like legit contenders through the first 3 games. They just looked like they weren't going to have the defense. They had some dysfunctional offensive play. But Ben Johnson is incredible as a coach. He's got this team absolutely rolling. They've won 5 straight games. He is the energy, the momentum to keep them going. He's a young guy, so he can get out there and get his team going, and he does that for the Bears quite often. You see that they don't have to do it all with the rushing or with the passing game. This one, they go get Kyle Monangai going, 22 for 130 and a touchdown. Kyle Monangai is a dog, and if you watched him play for the Rutgers, he was a dog then too. He ran for like 1,500 plus rushing yards last year. This guy should never fell down that far in the draft. It's just because he was kind of viewed as a one-dimensional power back. He's a lot more than that. He is a superstar, and they are able to unlock that. Again, Ben Johnson, what does he do with running backs? He makes them better. That's just what he does. He's a running back guru. Every running back that he's touched has been a good player. So I expect Kyle Monangai to keep this up as the year goes on. DeAndre Swift is still there, can be used in the passing game. He's a great pass catching back. And again, they didn't need a high level passing attack to go out and get a huge victory over the defending Super Bowl champions. On the other side for the Eagles, Jalen Hurts has a decent game, especially because of how high powered the passing attack was. 19 for 34, 230 yards. Over half of that goes to A.J. Brown. 10 catches, 132 yards, and 2 touchdowns. When you get that stat line from A.J. Brown with this team, you absolutely expect to win the game. So, I mean, he did everything for him. Very limited rushing attack right now, which is concerning because that was the whole part of this team last year was Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, that offensive line, just beating teams in the trenches. They don't have that same effect this year. They have less of a rushing attack, and the passing attack is not always this good. I mean, we've seen in past weeks, A.J. Brown hated being here, so good to see him get going. But man, is this scary for the Eagles because you get beat up on by the Bears, who have their own problems defensively. They have not been incredible defensively this year. Now they've stepped it up as of recently, but this is an interesting one. I didn't think the Bears would find a way to get this victory, and I thought for sure the Eagles at home would be able to bounce back. So to me, the Bears look like real contenders. I still don't think they're the best team in the NFC. We'll talk about them in a little while, but really, really impressive victory here.
Yeah, a good win there for the Bears. I think these teams are kind of both similar in how they want to play, kind of rely on the run game. You look at the Bears' record, 9-3. You would expect them to have like a really, really good quarterback, but I mean, Caleb Williams has not been that impressive this year. He's been kind of a middle of the road quarterback, and not bad, but not great either. And the same with Jalen Hurts. It was an interesting matchup there. Not only did they get Kyle Monangai going, but DeAndre Swift had over 100 yards rushing as well and a touchdown. So really impressive performance there by the Bears, both of their running backs. I think Ben Johnson is a great hire for the Bears. I think he was probably the best head coach on the market at the time, and the Bears did a great job picking him up. Like the headline says, they're a fifth straight win for the Bears, and it's not like they've had a bunch of easy games in a row. They've had some tough games in there, so really impressive things from them. And then for the Eagles, I think this year they've struggled well, not so much. They're 8-4, but they've struggled a little bit more than they did last year because of Saquon Barkley not being able to get going like he did last year. I mean, last year he was an MVP candidate. This year he's really kind of struggled to get going. So I think, I don't know, maybe if he can turn things around and get going, the Eagles can become a Super Bowl contender. But until then, I don't know. I don't trust Jalen Hurts' arm to take him to win too many games.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with you. I don't think he's a good enough passer that without a rushing attack at all that he can win you big time football games. So concerning for the Eagles that you're not playing the way you were last year, and for the Bears, man, what a turnaround! And Ben Johnson was absolutely the best hire on the market last season. Rolling into our Sunday day slate, we'll start off with one where we both said that we thought the Browns weren't a very good team. We thought Shedeur Sanders had the chance to get humbled in this game. That's what happens. The Niners, they don't really have a passing attack in this one much either. I mean, Purdy wasn't bad. He was fine. He didn't make any big mistakes or anything, but 168 yards and a touchdown is not an impressive passing day. But it was the defense getting and making plays in the backfield, getting on Shedeur in this game. I think forced 3 sacks. But even more than that, it was their ability to just find ways to score points that were kind of unconventional. It wasn't this high power passing attack. It wasn't even a great day from Christian McCaffrey on the ground. It was just a day where they were able to score 26 points without a crazy high performance on offense. I think a lot of that, again, has to do with the fact that their defense was holding Shedeur Sanders in check. Now, Quinshon Judkins did have a great day for the Browns, 23 for 91. They also had Dylan Sampson go for a few yards behind him. So a decent day from the two Browns running backs, both being rookies, which was interesting when they made those draft picks. But overall, I just don't think the Browns are very good. And I think that showed. You see Myles Garrett get back there and make another play, gets a sack, so gets him just a little bit closer to that record that, of course, I know you're hoping he doesn't break. Does seem like he's definitely on a warpath to try to get that record. But really impressive from the Niners. George Kittle looks great, looks healthy. Purdy looks pretty good, healthy, a lot better than last week, 10 times better. I think Kyle Shanahan kind of gave him an easier game plan, kind of let him get back into things, not rush everything. And as long as you blocked Myles Garrett in this game, you knew you were going to beat this team. So, good victory for the Niners. They're 9-4. They look like a really good competitor. I don't necessarily think they look like a Super Bowl winning team. I think that they're a really good team and they can make a push and get to it if they get things going. But still, really, really impressive victory because you shut down, Myles Garrett. He didn't get back there and wreak havoc all day. He had one sack. That's really impressive when you hold that guy to one sack. So, good day from the Niners. The Browns, they're just bad. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, like you said, not really too much to go on with this one. Kind of what we were expecting. Brock Purdy, like you said, had a much improved game. 49ers couldn't really get the run game going, but they were able to do just enough through the air to beat the Browns because this Browns offense, like we've said again and again, is just not good. And the Browns defense did have a pretty good game here, but when your offense is just not keeping the ball, really, you're just not going to win games. So I think the Browns, honestly, they have some potential with Shedeur. They're a much better offense with Shedeur than with Dylan Gabriel back there. I didn't know that that was going to be the case after Shedeur's performance when he came in and
Yeah.
played. Once when he has a week to prepare, he's not a terrible quarterback. He's still, I don't think, going to be the Browns' future, but he's I think he's a better option than Dylan Gabriel. Shadur, he did get a little bit humbled from last week, just saying, telling us what and all he did. He
Yeah.
didn't do too much this game, putting up 8 points. So, not too sad to see the Browns lose here.
No. Yeah, I mean, again, that's a division rival for you too, so it makes it even sweeter that they were able to just get shut down completely. I will say it'll be interesting to see what the Browns do. I think they kind of knew when they drafted Shedeur Sanders that he was more of a project, that he wasn't going to be a great starter in year one, that just isn't the player he was going to be. People that were saying he was going to be a first overall pick or a first round pick even probably were just not right with that. I myself bought into a little bit of the hype early on, but then I kind of said, wait a minute, this guy doesn't really have the traits of being this high level first round pick quarterback. Now, did I think he was a fifth round pick? No way. I didn't think he'd fall that far. I thought he'd be, late second round, third round, like where Tyler Shuck went. I thought he could go there. But I don't think he's the future, like you said. But also, do you want to spend a high draft pick again after you just drafted two quarterbacks? It's the Browns. They've had like 36 quarterbacks in the last. I think the number's insane. If you go look at there's like a guy that has a jacket made up with every single quarterback's name on the back of it, and it's so big how many names are on the back of that jacket. So the joke is that they will probably take another quarterback because that's just what they do. But they can't develop them, and they have never really proven to be able to develop them. And they also still have Deshaun Watson, who will be getting paid. So are you going to play him next year? I have no idea. It is an interesting team to say the least. Moving on to this next one here. Unfortunately, when it comes to the Titans, I like to talk about my team. There's nothing to talk about in this game. They got embarrassed. They look bad on both sides. They did have some impressive plays here and there. I don't know how Chimere Dike doesn't be the all-pro returner. This dude is the only spark of offense that we have, and that's sad when the offense is doing less than your kick returner and your punt returner does, moving the ball up and down the field. Cam Ward didn't necessarily have a horrible day, but he just couldn't do anything. He's 24 for 38 with 140 yards. I mean, that means you're not throwing the ball anywhere down the field. So there just was no big plays opening up. He just couldn't make a big play. Part of that probably has to do with the fact that his receivers are not good, and his only real receivers are his two tight ends right now. I do like DK. I think he's got a lot of ability, but again, he was more of a project for the slot receiver game, necessarily returning kicks. We knew he could do that. And then Ellick is coming off an injury, so he's not healthy. They have no chance to win these games, which is not a bad thing. Again, we need to lose. You do see Tony Pollard have a pretty good rushing day. I think that's been completely shut down as of late. So impressive that he was able to get going a little bit, but again, it didn't matter. Early on, we were doing some good things defensively. I think we do have some good players. Jeffrey Simmons is in the top three of the Pro Bowl voting, so I think he'll end up getting there. He's one of the best interior defensive linemen in football. He did have a couple plays. And we have some nice pieces, but man, this team is so far away from winning meaningful football games. On the other side for the Jags, 8-4 now. I still don't think they're that good of a football team. You said it last week. What does this really do? It doesn't prove much to me. Trevor Lawrence does have a pretty good day, though. No interceptions, which is better. He's bouncing back from a lot of the mistakes he's had. 16 for 27, 229, two touchdowns. Finally gets Jakobi Meyers going at a high level. 6 for 90 and a touchdown. Good game from him. Good game from the piece they were able to acquire. But I just don't. I don't think that the Jags are all that impressive, and now they're the leader in the AFC South. So what does that say about the Colts? What does that say about the Texans? I think it says that division isn't all that great, which I think we've kind of known that. But again, you can only play the schedule that you are dealt, like you've said in the past, and they're winning the games that they have to win, and they have an impressive victory. They beat the Chiefs. So they're a playoff team right now. As of today, are they a team I'd pick to win a playoff game? I don't know. I don't think so. But we'll see what happens with the Jags and the Texans and Colts. Also, the rest of the year, we'll talk about that game in just a second. But what were your thoughts here?
Yeah, like you said, not too much to say about this one. The Titans kind of just got embarrassed, which has kind of surprised me after the way that Tennessee played last week. I was kind of expecting them to keep it pretty close with Jacksonville because, like I've said in the past, I don't believe Jacksonville is a really, really good football team like their record would indicate. But I mean, like you said, they just keep finding ways to win, and I mean that's all you got to do in the NFL because I mean that'll get you to the playoffs, and who knows once you get there, anything can happen. Good pick up there at the trade deadline, getting Jacoby Myers, kind of getting Trevor Lawrence going in this game. He has struggled with interceptions this year, but this week he threw zero interceptions and two touchdowns. So good performance from him. And then, like I said, Cam Ward, didn't have a terrible day through the air, just couldn't get anything going downfield. And then that's pretty much it on this one. Not too much. Neither team could really get the running game going. So good performance there by Trevor Lawrence, and then a good win there for the Jaguars. We'll see how they can if they continue to win these games moving forward. They can only play the schedule they're dealt. So if they keep winning, they will probably make the playoffs, and then we'll see from there.
Yeah, and you mentioned the run game. I will say that's the one really good part about this Titans defense is that interior, their defensive line, and then Cedric Gray stepping into the linebacker position. I will give some props to some guys. I had to give my little bit of love to the Titans. I didn't do it enough. Cedric Gray has really stepped up in a big way for the Titans. I mean, our linebacking core is bad. I mean, it's really, really bad. We were probably the worst linebacking core in all of football last year. This year, you had to have somebody step up. Cedric Gray has done that. 7 tackles in this game. He's also getting Pro Bowl votes, which is really impressive from a guy that wasn't able to play much last year due to some injuries. And then Kevin Winston comes back healthy, the third-round draft pick, who was going to be a higher draft pick without injury, has his first career sack from the safety position. So a good game from him overall. There's, again, not much to write home about. Jeff Simmons is a dog on defense. Let's hope Cam Ward gets rolling in the near future. Moving on to our next one here, another divisional matchup in the AFC South. The Texans taking on the Colts, and the Texans are able to get it done, 20-16. Kind of an interesting game. It was more so the Texans' defense than anything else getting this done, holding the Colts to 16 points, an offense that was really effective and scored a lot at the beginning of the season. They've been able to slow them down, but so have a lot of teams here recently. The Colts have kind of fallen off a little bit, and I saw a guy, he was giving a hot take. And he said his hot take was the Indianapolis Colts are going to miss the playoffs after starting out 8-1. Now, it kind of looks like that's possible with the way they're playing football right now. And if Daniel Jones has really got that serious injury, who knows? Maybe the Colts do miss the playoffs. I don't think Anthony Richardson can come in midseason and make you better. That's for sure. Looking at this game, you see CJ Stroud there is your leading passer, 276, does have the interception, no touchdowns, but still a pretty good game from him. He's able to find his lead receiver, Nico Collins, quite a few times, 5 for 98. They are able to establish a ground game as well. We see Nico Collins score a rushing touchdown in this game, which is really interesting. Also, Nick Chubb, he's playing until the wheels fall off. He finds the end zone in this one as well. Woody Marks has really stepped up in a big way for the Texans and become their lead back. But Nick Chubb still has the ability to be a guy here and there when they need him. And overall, really impressive from that Texans offense. They were able to get it done. Again, impressive victory. Defensively, they're really, really good. They arguably have one of the best defensive lines in the NFL. I always say that about the Rams, but I'll give my props to the Texans as well. You have Will Anderson and Daniil Hunter. That is incredible coming off the edge. I don't think very many teams have two tackles good enough to block that combo. So the Texans are really going to keep rolling if they keep that up. On the other side for the Colts, Daniel Jones doesn't have a bad game. 14 for 27, 201, two touchdowns, no interceptions, but he just can't have high level passing, prolific passing games anymore. They're just not there. It's the injury has really limited his rushing ability. You see him have one total carry in this game. That is not Daniel Jones. He is a running quarterback, so that is a big, big problem for this team. I don't know what they're going to do moving forward. They need him to get healthy if they want to have a chance. And you look at Jonathan Taylor, he does have a decent game, 21 for 85. But what has it always been? Since they started losing games, it's been teams keeping him out of the end zone and just controlling him. Now, they didn't contain him. He still had a good day overall, but it was an incredible day. It wasn't 200 yards and three touchdowns, which is why they were winning games. So, really impressive from the Texans defense. The Colts, they have a lot of issues. You just made that big trade for Sauce Gardner. He's no longer on the field. He has a calf strain, and it looked really bad. It did look like a potential popped Achilles, which would be the worst possible injury. They did say calf strain, but if you play with a calf strain, you will pop your Achilles. That is what all the guys got hurt with in the NBA Finals. We saw Tyrese Halliburton do it last year in the playoffs. We saw Tatum do it. We've seen all kinds of guys pop their Achilles trying to play on calf strains. So don't do it. It's not worth it. How long will he be out? I don't know. A long time, I would assume. And that only hurts that team that just gave up so much value to get him on the defense. So overall, really impressive victory by the Texans. And if you're the Colts, you kind of have to be worried about the rest of the season from here on out. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, once again, another team wasn't able to completely shut down Jonathan Taylor, but you see, he doesn't have a 200-yard game again, and the Colts they lose. I think it's been that way. I think the key to beating the Colts is hold Jonathan Taylor on under 100 yards, and you're probably going to win because Daniel Jones is not a terrible NFL quarterback, but he is just, I don't think he's good enough to win you a bunch of games with his arm, especially now that he's dealing with a lingering injury. And then you never know if Anthony Richardson comes in there, it's only going to be worse. So, not looking good there for the Colts. I do think that they probably can sneak out a couple wins and will probably make the playoffs, but it's not looking good for them in the playoffs. They might be a first round exit. And then for the Texans, they've found their way right back in the playoff conversation. They started off the season awful,
Yeah.
and then they get Davis Mills in at quarterback, and it's like, oh, this team's no shot they make the playoffs. And they go like 3-1 with Davis Mills, and now they get CJ Stroud back. So the Texans are right back in the conversation for the playoffs, and they're not in the strongest of divisions. So we could definitely see them make the playoffs after the 1-4 or however bad off they started. So really, really impressive there by the Texans being able to hold on without their starting quarterback and battling off a really bad start. So good win here for the Texans, and then we'll see. It'll be an interesting race between the Colts and the Texans moving forward, and the Jaguars as well.
Yeah, I think the Texans can very easily win this division. The way that these teams have played as of late, I don't think the Jaguars are a better football team than the Texans. I think they have a better defense for sure. So it's all about that Jags offense. Maybe they can get a high-powered passing attack if Lawrence stops turning the ball over, which he didn't this week, but it was the Titans. The Texans, man, they have a chance. They have a real shot. They beat the best team in the division, arguably, with the Colts. Moving on to this next one here, Saints taking on the Dolphins. The Dolphins are able to find a victory in a game where Tua Tagovailoa did not play good at all. 12 for 23, 157 yards, no touchdowns and an interception. That's just a bad day from Tua. He hasn't been a very good quarterback this year. We've said it time and time again that he just isn't. He just isn't a great quarterback anymore. A lot of those injuries he's had over his career have just kind of sidelined him and made him less of a player. But man, when you can just throw it out and let Devon Achane do everything for your offense, you let Devon Achane do everything for your offense. This dude is incredible. Goes 22 for 134 on the ground and a touchdown. He's arguably the fastest running back in all of football. He gets up and down the field at extreme speeds. And when you needed a playmaker in this game, he was the guy to go out and do it. Of course, you have that late game pick two, which is why you see 5 points there. They needed a 2 point conversion to tie it, and the Dolphins picked it off, returned it all the way for a pick two to get this to a 21-17 victory. Impressive from Devon Achane. From the rest of this offense, I don't know, not that great, but you get a victory, and that's all that matters. On the other side for the Saints, Tyler Shuck starts this game off really rough. He has two turnovers, I believe it was a fumble and an interception, so you're worried. You're like, uh-oh, this is the Tyler Shuck that you were worried about seeing. Rest of the game, Tyler Shuck looks like the guy that can be your future starter. Incredible, incredible bounce back from that start. 239 yards, two touchdowns after the bad start. Gets Devon Vele going, who they traded for from the Denver Broncos. Chris Olave has a decent day. Juwan Johnson has a decent day. And then even Devin Neal making some plays in the receiving game. Also has 47 rushing yards. Overall, you saw a lot of positives from the Saints offense. You saw some life. They were able to move the ball up and down the field. They were in an opportunity to tie the game and potentially send it to overtime and just don't get what they wanted out of that play with the pick two. Of course, not going against Shuck because it is a 2 point conversion. But you had to throw the ball up. You don't blame him. You throw a pick there because it's worse to take a sack or not even get a chance. You throw the ball up. It just so happens to go in the favor of the Dolphins. But overall, I don't know if the Saints are a quarterback team anymore when I go to this NFL draft. I think they might stick with Tyler Shuck. I've seen some really impressive stuff from him. He has layered his throws really well. He's able to go over the top, make plays. He has some scrambling ability as well. He didn't do it much in this game, but you see it sometimes. You especially saw it back in his Louisville college days last season. So maybe they got their guy in Tyler Shuck. They've got to really rebuild the rest of this team. It doesn't look very good other than him. I don't think Devon Vele's a future guy, but Chris Olave certainly is. And Juwan Johnson, even though he's an older guy, has looked good this year. I think there's some positives for the Saints. You're still not going to be very good, and this draft pick is going to be really valuable, especially if you don't need to take a quarterback, because you can address another position in the draft. The defense is definitely somewhere that they need to look. But again, overall, good day from the Dolphins. They're able to get it done. Although Tua doesn't play well because Devon Achane's incredible. And for the Saints, you might have your franchise quarterback. I don't know if he's going to be a superstar ever in his career, but he looks pretty good since he's gotten into the offense and started games. The game plan going towards him. He certainly looked a lot better than anybody else not named Cam Ward in the rookie class. And honestly, he's had some better games than Ward. I think Ward's game last week was the best out of all the rookies, but that's a really impressive performance from Shuck overall. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, good game there from Shuck, like you said. And then with the Dolphins, their offense, man, it has potential to be really, really good if they were just had a quarterback. I mean, you've got Waddle, Achane, Darren Waller coming back, and then Tua just limits them. It's really unfortunate for the Dolphins with all the weapons they have. And Mike McDaniel, yeah, you kind of feel for him because he's kind of stuck with Tua. I know he loves Tua and all, but it's just really sucks for the Dolphins. For the Saints, I think you're right about Shuck. I don't know that they go quarterback, especially first round. I mean, you have plenty of other places you can
Yeah.
go that need improvement. So I don't think quarterback is a pressing need for the Saints. I think there are so many other options to go with for the Saints there. So I think Shuck has probably played his way into maybe being the starting quarterback for the Saints next year. And then, like you mentioned, really impressive performance from Achane. You normally see this from him receiving, but he didn't even have a catch this week. So
Yeah.
all on the ground this week from Achane. Really impressive. He's had a really good season. Hopefully he can keep that going. And then good for Shuck there. For the Saints, you really don't care if they keep losing. You're going to get a better draft pick, but you do want to see positive signs from Shuck, and I think that's what they've been seeing so far. So a win-win here. The Dolphins get a win, and then the Saints, Shuck played good. So
Yeah, and I was really high on Devon Achane coming into the league from Texas A&M. I was expecting him to be a superstar player. I drafted him in my sleeper league, if you know what that is a fantasy football league where you keep your players. So I drafted him and I was like high on him. It's paid off big time. He is a fantasy football superstar because of, like you said, his receiving ability that he has. He did it this week without even catching a pass. So really, really impressive from Devon Achane. He's one of the best players at that position in all of football. Moving on to our next one here. Falcons taking on the Jets, and what do you know? Tyrod Taylor is able to get it done in the year of 2025 for the New York Jets. That's all this offense needed, baby, was a little bit of Tyrod Taylor to step up. What about this rushing game? Are we back in the early 2000s? Tyrod Taylor goes for 44 yards and a touchdown on the ground, throws for 172 and a touchdown through the air, makes no mistakes as a quarterback. He's only brought down twice. He had that elusiveness in the pocket like he used to have. So really, really fun to watch Tyrod get a play again and just be out there enjoying himself. You know he's at the end of his career. He's 36 years old. He's going to retire pretty soon. He might be getting a chance to go somewhere and be a backup for another few years, which is really cool for him. You look at the rushing attack for them. Brees Hall, other than Tyrod, was the rest of the rushing attack, 19 for 68 and a touchdown. Really, really good game from the Jets offensively. And then you see Adonai Mitchell, A.D. Mitchell, with an incredible game, 8 for 102 and a touchdown. This is the piece they got back in that Colts trade on top of the first round picks. I mean, they've absolutely won the trade so far because Sauce is not playing football. He's injured. He can't get on the field because of the calf strain. So, really, really great. A.D. Mitchell was a guy that was really highly thought of coming out of college. He just had some off the field issues with attitude. He's getting the opportunity now to be a superstar because Garrett Wilson's on the injured reserve. They have no one else, and Tyrod fed him the ball in this game. Great, great day from Adonai Mitchell. Expect him to be great moving forward for this team, and it's the perfect situation for a guy that had struggled to do anything in that Colts offense prior to this. On the other side of the ball, of course, the Falcons. They're just not a great football team. You can't let the Jets score 27 points on you, even though it was Tyrod. It's a much improved passing attack from Justin Fields. Kirk Cousins doesn't have a bad day, 234 and a touchdown, just not able to get a lot going. Bijan Robinson has an incredible day. This is why this guy's one of the best backs in football. 23 for 142 and a touchdown. Also adds 5 for 51 through the air. He is incredible, nearly 200 scrimmage yards. They just didn't have enough. The rest of the offense is just not able to get it done. They still don't have their lead receiver in Drake London, so that's a big issue. Moving forward, they have to have him back. You're not going to rush him back because you're 4-8 and you have no playoff hopes. You also don't have your young quarterback, so it's not like you're developing any chemistry with Penix, which there's some rumors that could be a serious injury. We talked about that last week. He might not be the guy for them moving forward. Very interesting for the Falcons. You feel bad for them because of the injuries that have happened to them this year, but they're just not a great football team. And last but not least, I loved him when he was a Tennessee Titan. Nick Folk with the game-winning field goal from 52 yards out at like what 40 years old. I don't remember his age. He is an old kicker. He's been kicking in the NFL for a long time. He played with their head coach in Aaron Glenn. They played together, and he's still in the NFL kicking. So what a moment when Aaron Glenn comes in with the game ball and says, "Where's the guy I played with?" and tosses him the football. So really, really cool moment. Nick Folk kind of hyped him up. He didn't have a whole lot of hype left in him. He's an old guy, but really, really cool to see him nail that field goal. He is extremely consistent. As a Titans fan, when we had Nick Folk, I never felt like we were going to miss a kick. It certainly wasn't like the days with Fat Randy Bullock. So, really impressive victory from the Jets, and they do it with the old man's leg. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, another good, or not another, but a good win here for the Jets. Definitely not another for the Jets. But like you said, Tyrod had a really good game
Yeah.
for an old man. I mean, he was getting it done on the ground, through the air, kind of like a vintage Tyrod there. Good to see as a Tech fan. So we need something to pull for here. Brees Hall, he was able to get going on the ground as well. And then I think a huge part of this was Adonai Mitchell getting going through the air. And like you said, a piece they get on top of a first round pick. So, I mean, you're looking at possibly a starting wide receiver moving forward. And then who knows what you'll get with the first round pick if you play your cards right. The Jets, they could get some really good pieces moving forward. I think obviously quarterback is where you need to look for the Jets moving forward. in the immediate future.
Yeah.
And then for the Falcons, really just a disappointing season so far. I mean, they have some really, really talented pieces, Bijan, Drake London. What they were hoping was their future quarterback goes down with an injury. And like I said, we don't know how serious that is. So he might not be the guy moving forward, which is just really unfortunate. You spent a first round pick on him, and now his whole NFL future is uncertain. So you hate to see that. Disappointing for the Falcons. They were expecting probably to make the playoffs this year or make a push for the playoffs, and it's just not happening. They were kind of in the mix halfway through the season, like we were saying. We can't get a read on them, but now we have the read. They are absolutely terrible. So just really unfortunate. And then for the Jets, old man getting it done, kicking the ball. So you always see those kickers. They seem to stay in the league obviously much longer than most players because they don't take any contact or anything, but still impressive nevertheless at his age, still able to drill long field goals. So good win for the Jets, and honestly encouraging for the future with Adonai Mitchell getting going. So we'll see if hopefully they can hit on a few of those first round picks. They really need something for the Jets. They have been bad for so long.
Yeah, and you talk about it with him. Of course, he might be the all-pro kicker in the AFC right now. It's just he's so consistent. He doesn't miss kicks, and you really, really love having that. Now, again, they're not a great football team, so unfortunately for him, you're not seeing him make a ton of big kicks like this one. But I think a lot of really good teams would love to have a kicker that's that consistent because it brings you tons of value. Now, I won't be giving any hate to the Titans because we have Joey Sly, and he's been awesome since the little weird little hiccup he had mid-year where he missed a couple. He's been great for us. So I still love Joey Sly. I'm happy that he is a Titan and of course a former Hokie, but Nick Folk has been incredible. Moving on to this next one here. Jacoby Brissett's got to be your starting quarterback next year. You can't win football games, and it ain't his fault. He is not losing you these games. He throws for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, nearly has a 75% completion percentage. He does throw the one interception this week, but when you're pushing the ball up and down the field, you're going to throw a pick here and there. We've seen all the guys do that. Brett Favre used to throw three in a game, and he's an all-time Hall of Fame level quarterback. Now, he ain't Brett Favre, but just to throw it out there, he's going to throw a pick here and there. It's going to happen. He's still really impressive. If you're the Cardinals, find a way to win some football games for this dude, man, because he looks like a quarterback that could be your starting quarterback moving forward. Really, really impressive yet again from Jacoby Brissett. I think he's the starter moving forward. He has built a really good connection with Trey McBride. Like you said, 8 for 82 and a touchdown. Impressive game. Marvin Harrison comes back from his injury, goes 6 for 69. Also has a really good game. Bam Knight, who we were like, who? He has a good game, 11 for 62 on the ground. Every statistic points towards the Cardinals winning this game. The Buccaneers get it done, 20-17. A victory that they absolutely had to have. You lose this one, your playoff hopes are pretty much over. They win it, and it's really not a super impressive statistical victory. Baker Mayfield goes 194 and a touchdown. He does bring a little bit of rushing upside, and of course, Bucky Irving returns. That's the big story here. You get Bucky Irving back. We talked about how we didn't know how this offense was going to move the ball up and down the field because of all their superstars being down. Well, Bucky Irving returns. He scores a touchdown. He does a little bit of work in the passing game. Emeka Egbuka goes 4 for 42, and Chris Godwin finally has a good game, 3 for 78. So overall, great day from that offense when it comes to just the guys coming back, the guys that were available finally for Baker Mayfield to have some weapons. I still have concerns for the Buccaneers. This isn't the best defense. Now, they were able to hold the Cardinals to 17 points after Brissett throws for 300 yards. Part of that is the Cardinals' inability to score when they get down to the red zone. But the other issue is these injuries are still here. You can tell that Baker Mayfield is not fully healthy. You can tell that Bucky Irving is not fully healthy. He didn't get a full workload. You're not getting Mike Evans back. Chris Godwin is still not a full go. He had to go to the sideline a few times after making a play because he just couldn't stay on the field. So those concerns still worry me a little bit. But you're playing the 3-9 Cardinals. You're able to get it done. A huge victory. Buccaneers look like a potential playoff team moving forward. They just have a lot of work to do as the season goes on. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, I think Jacoby Brissett has to be your starting quarterback. I don't think Kyler has shown you that he can, at least through the air, can throw near as good as Brissett has. And I mean, he is 32, which is still, I mean, he's still got a few years left. So I think the Cardinals could possibly keep him at quarterback and then not build around. I mean, he's not a franchise guy, but build a solid team with him at quarterback for sure. I mean, you already have Trey McBride, who is honestly, he would be, a, I think he's probably leading or not leading, but up there in the league for reception yards. It seems every week he is the Cardinals' leading receiver, and you already have Marvin Harrison Jr. as well. So they've got some pieces to build around on that offense. Just improve the defense a little bit. And I think the Cardinals could be a possible playoff team next year. Maybe get a running back in there as well, which Bam Knight had a good game this week. And then for the Buccaneers, they had a 3 game stretch of losses, but they played the Patriots, the Bills, and the Rams, which is just absolutely brutal. I mean, you, it's three of the best teams in the NFL that you played there, and you're playing completely, your team's just annihilated with injuries. So I think the Buccaneers are definitely a playoff team. Baker is definitely a really good quarterback, and like we've talked about on the pod over and over, he is a winner. And if it comes down to the end of a game, he's going to win you a game. So I think the Buccaneers, if they can stay healthy and or completely heal up and stay healthy by the end of the season, and they're in the playoffs, I think they're a scary team, and they definitely need to be looked out for. So a good win here for the Buccaneers. They had to have it, and a good playing there by Jacoby Brissett. I think he could be your starter next year for the Cardinals.
Yeah, and we'll move on into this next one here. And the reason this is such a big game is the Buccaneers, I told you, probably can make the playoffs by winning their division. Well, the Panthers are pushing now, and I never expected this one because the way the Rams have looked, they've looked like the best team in football. That with, the Patriots, who are now definitely the best team, they've separated themselves due to this loss, but really impressive victory from the Panthers. They don't necessarily have the best day ever defensively, but they force turnovers. Matthew Stafford throws 2 interceptions, and those interceptions lose you that game. That is it. That's the moment you lost the game was with those 2 picks. Drake May has now separated himself as the favorite, as the MVP, because this is just not the best game from Stafford. Now, other than the 2 picks, he does throw for 243 and 2 touchdowns. He finds some guys on the outside. Of course, when you have Devontae Adams, you get to the red zone, you throw it up, and he catches it. That's what always happens. He scored both of those receiving touchdowns for the Rams. They don't have a bad rushing day either. That's what's kind of scary is you lose to the Panthers with a really good overall passing day, and Blake Corum and Kyren Williams both combined for over 70 apiece, and both get touchdowns on the ground. So those interceptions literally lost you this game. You put this one on Stafford. Now again, he's gave you a ton of wins too, so you can't blame the guy. He's gonna have a bad game here or there. I just didn't expect it against the Panthers. For the Panthers, I mean, come on. Bryce Young, 15 for 20, 206, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. It's not the best game he played all year because he just threw for 400 some yards a couple weeks ago, but it's one of the best games he's played. And that's because he doesn't turn the ball over. He's safe with the ball, he makes the plays he has to make, and he doesn't make mistakes. He wins his team this football game by just keeping the ball in his possession. That's something he's always needed to do. He's had some issues with turnovers, fumbles, and interceptions both. And in this game, he's able to kind of tone back on that and get a huge victory. Again, for the Rams, you have concerns that your defense gives up 31 points to the Panthers. Chuba Hubbard has a good bounce back game for the Panthers. He hasn't been their leading rusher. Rico also has a decent day on the ground. Coker was your lead receiver. Tedero McMillan only goes 1 for 43 and a touchdown, but in fantasy, that's at least 10 points. So good job for him. I have him in fantasy, so I needed that. Got me over the 10-point mark with 1 catch. It's really impressive. Good job, Panthers. You absolutely put yourselves in the playoff conversation with a victory like this. And who knows, maybe they can go out and win that division. It is just them and the Buccaneers pretty much at the top of it. Colin, your thoughts here?
Yeah, a great win here for the Panthers. I mean, honestly, I'd never expected this. The Rams, after the way they beat the Buccaneers last week, I thought they were easily the best team in the NFC, and the Panthers kind of just shut them down. Matthew Stafford broke the record for the most consecutive touchdowns without an interception, and then right after that, he throws 2 interceptions. So I know before the game, the NFL posted a picture of him and with the caption 9, and he turned into 9, referring to McCarthy there.
Yeah.
The Panthers and the Buccaneers still do have both of their matchups to play, and those will be crucial moving down the stretch. I think the winner of probably, I don't know, they'll probably split, but those are going to be crucial. If one of those teams win both of those games, then the division's likely over.
Yep.
So those games will be fun to watch. And then for the Rams, I mean, you lost here, but it was because of Stafford's 2 interceptions. And like I said, he's just broke the record for the most consecutive touchdowns without an interception. So I don't think it's much to worry about there. You have probably the best offense in the NFL. You have so many weapons, Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and then Kyron Williams in the backfield with Matthew Stafford, who has been number two in the MVP conversation now, but has been right up there with Drake May all year. So really just a great team the Rams are. So it's a great job here by the Panthers. Kind of didn't completely shut them down, but got the win here. And Bryce Young, he played incredible. And then Chuba Hubbard, you kind of saw halfway through the season, he kind of lost all his carries after his injury, and Rico Dowdle kind of popped off. But it looks like they're kind of splitting carries now, and Chuba had the better game here. So good for him there, and a really, really important win for the Panthers.
Yeah, and like you said, this division race kind of reminds you of that Ravens Steelers race. That if one of
Yep.
those two teams takes both games, it feels like the division's probably over. It feels like it's going to teeter in the direction of the team that takes both. It'll be interesting. I don't know if I still think the Buccaneers are the better football team. I think if they're healthy, they certainly are. Without it, I think they're pretty even. So it should be really fun to get those two matchups, like you said. Moving on to this next one here, Vikings taking on the Seahawks. And how did the Tennessee Titans score 24 points on the Seahawks? I know I just don't get it. We scored three on the Jags, who have a far worse defense. But the Seahawks in fantasy, this is the point I have to bring up. Their defense scored 32 fantasy points this week. 32. That is better than most quarterbacks score every week. What a game from the Seattle Seahawks defense. Max Brosmer throws four interceptions. Horrible day. He's not better than nine. He definitely ain't better than nine. Nine ain't very good, but Max Brosmer ain't good either. That is an embarrassing day from him. They have no rushing attack really at all. And the Seahawks, man, that defense absolutely dominates, asserts their dominance on this team. The only guy that got going was TJ Hawkinson. There's really no Justin Jefferson. Just a really, really, really bad day. If you are a Vikings fan, it does say right there, Seahawks blanked the Vikings for the first shutout victory in 10 years. That's also kind of crazy to think about when they had that Legion of Boom, that since then they haven't had that high level defense. Just something in my mind, I correlate the Seahawks with really good defenses because of the Legion of Boom. Then you go over to the other side with the Seahawks, and they don't have an impressive statistical day on offense. Sam Darnold's 14 for 26, 128 yards, no interceptions, no touchdowns. Doesn't really do anything. Then Kenneth Walker, leading rusher, only has 56 yards. Charbonnet did have 52 and a touchdown on the ground. So it wasn't really all that impressive of a day from your offense. It was just Charbonnet finds the end zone once. There is no passing game really. But here's the difference. You kick a total of four field goals in this game, one of the long being 56, and your defense scores a touchdown. Like I said before, that's a really impressive part of the game is the defense shutting down the Vikings and getting that touchdown. But man, what a game from the Seahawks. Overall, you didn't even need your offense. You just said, guys, take a break today. We're going to let our defense absolutely dominate this game. If you're the Vikings, man, oh my gosh, you've got a lot of problems. You probably shouldn't have let Sam Darnold walk out the door. You don't have a quarterback on the roster right now. And I think that there's something maybe there with McCarthy, but I hated that draft pick coming out of college. I never saw JJ McCarthy lead that Michigan offense when they won that championship. That was on Blake Corum's back. He had 30 rushing touchdowns. I just, I never was a fan of him. I don't think he's impressed me at all in the NFL. Maybe the Vikings are a quarterback team moving forward. I know that they traded to get him, so it's going to be hard to give him up, but I just don't know. It's interesting to see what happens the rest of the year. Vikings are really not very good at all. Seahawks 9-3, one of the best teams in the NFC. Calling your thoughts here.
Yeah, first I want to mention, like you said, Kenneth Walker, leading rusher, no touchdowns yet again. Charbonnet gets all their touchdowns. I don't know what they have against Kenneth Walker, but they refuse to give him any red zone touches. I don't know what it is. Moving on from that, Darnold goes 14 for 26, 128 yards. Not his best game, yet it is much better than what the Vikings are putting out there the past however many weeks, probably all year. They would definitely take Darnold right now. Honestly, they've got, I mean, you saw last year they were a playoff team,
Yeah.
had a really good team. They're just a quarterback away, really. And I mean, it's not like Darnold was I mean, he was really good last year, don't get me wrong, but he wasn't like an MVP candidate, and they were still that good. So I think they could definitely be a QB team in the draft because clearly that is what they're missing out on. That's pretty much all that's different from last year's team. I also want to give credit to Jason Myers. He has scored 122 points as a kicker, so that is insane. They are definitely working him this year. Maybe the Seahawks could struggle if they make when they make the playoffs if they are unable to get into the end zone a little bit more. Fortunately, I do have Jason Myers in fantasy, and that seems to be about the only notifications I get. No touchdowns from my players, just field goals from Jason Myers. So nice to have him. But good win here for the Seahawks, and I mean the Vikings. They are not looking good at all right now.
Yeah, and what a deadly combo that would be if you had Seahawks defense and their kicker scoring you 50
Yeah.
points. Uh, insane that that's what the Seahawks have, and that's just the team that they have become here recently. Is just the defense winning them this game. And like you said, with Darnold, he struggled at the very end of the year, and so that kind of scared the Vikings. They were really, really good. I mean, they were a top tier team, 14 wins last year. But that pressure in those last two games of the season, he couldn't throw under pressure. He was just, I mean, it looked like he was seeing ghosts again, like he was when he was in New York. And so they got scared. They didn't want to pay him the big money, and they backed off and didn't do it. You thought you had a quarterback. I didn't think they had a quarterback behind them that was all that great, but they did. They've given him the opportunity. Now they give Max Brosmer an opportunity, and there's just no answer there. So it will be interesting to see what they do. I don't think there's any big time free agents that are really going to hit the market. Maybe you call up the Cardinals and trade for Kyler Murray. Maybe that's something that could happen. Maybe the Titans want to send them Will Levis. He might throw some more picks for you. I don't know. He's a little bit wild. Does have talent. Clearly, it's there. The game he had against the Dolphins on Monday Night Football was awesome, but then he just does the plays that are like, what are we doing? So who knows? The Vikings seem like they might need a quarterback next year, though. I think they'll probably have a backup plan to McCarthy because I don't think they're not going to go away from him this early. I don't think with him being a first round pick, but they probably will want to have somebody behind him, a backup plan just in case things go bad again next year. Moving on to our next one here, a sad one for Mr. Colin. The Bills do go in and get a huge victory in Acrisure Stadium, 26-7. I'll start with other statistics, not the big one. Josh Allen, 15 for 23, 123 passing yards and a touchdown, also throws an interception. Really not that great of a performance from Josh Allen. I think it was the Steelers preparing for Josh Allen. They were ready for Josh Allen. And I think that the game plan on defense kind of bit them in the behind. They weren't ready for the other part of the offense, which I'll now mention, which is James Cook and Ray Davis and Josh Allen himself, also having 38 rushing yards and a touchdown on the ground, combining for 249 rushing yards, which is now a record inside Acrisure Stadium. It is the first time that a team has rushed for that many yards since 1975, when the Bills rushed for 310 yards in Three Rivers Stadium, which they also held the record there. So unfortunately, the Steelers, they just don't have a good time when they play the Bills. The Bills run the ball very well against the Steelers in their history. You see there, James Cook, 144 yards on 32 carries. Ray Davis goes 9 for 62. Josh Allen, 8 for 38 and a touchdown. And of course, you get 2 carries from Ty Johnson for 5 yards to finish off that 249. But overall, just can't stop the run game. And it really hadn't been as big of a problem. Now, we saw early in the year that they had some run game issues, but they had kind of figured it out and not been beat by the ground game. And unfortunately, that was just the case in this game. It looked really good for the Steelers in the first half. They were playing really good defense. Had a 7-3 lead. The offense wasn't really rolling. There wasn't much offensive production. Part of that has to do with the fact that Aaron Rodgers just wasn't having a great day. But also, what is he supposed to do when he doesn't have guys getting open? They kind of blanketed DK Metcalf. They made sure that it was very difficult for him to catch a pass. And so the Steelers had to go to different guys. Kenneth Gainwell out of the backfield, a couple catches, and then Darnell Washington, who looked like a behemoth when he got the ball in his hands. He made some really nice plays on those 2 catches that he had, but it just wasn't enough from the offense. And slowly, the Bills started running clock out. I think they had a drive that was like 10 minutes or something crazy. So just they just got a lead and ran away with it, and the Steelers were just unable to get back in it. They started forcing things. Mason Rudolph did have a bad interception at one point, which kind of hurt them, and it just didn't go their way. If you are the Steelers, you have a lot to look forward to though, because your division is still completely in your hands. You control your own destiny. You beat the Ravens twice, you're going to make the playoffs. You're probably going to get to your 9 wins that you won on the season. So I think they're still positive. I think this team can still be scary because their defense is not a bad unit. They have to figure some things out, and this game is it just kind of exposed some of the weaknesses that they have with their defense. For the Bills, big victory, 8-4. They do look like a playoff team for sure. We saw a couple slip ups here and there from them, but I expect they will be a real contender moving forward. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, just a really, really unfortunate game. The first play of the second half for Pittsburgh was a strip sack for a touchdown. And Aaron Rodgers did end up getting injured.
Yep.
Mason Rudolph comes in and he has one drive and throws an interception. So just a terrible start to the second half for Pittsburgh, and that was kind of just the way the rest of the game went. I did see a stat today that Pittsburgh has the least amount of plays on offense and the most amount of plays on defense in the NFL. So they lead in both categories, which it tells me the offense does not keep the ball very long at all. And the defense stays on the field, which probably means they're getting the ball ran down their throat. So, not very good signs there for Pittsburgh. And honestly, another really bad game from the highest paid defense in NFL history. You saw Jamar Chase when they played the Bengals the first time. He ran the same route over and over, and they did not adjust. And then this game, they ran, I'm not kidding you, it was the same play over and over and over. It was the same exact play. Like they wouldn't even change the scheme. It was the same play. And it was 5 or 6 yards, 8 yards every single time. And the Pittsburgh just refused to adjust in mid-game. I mean, probably if they played the Bills again, they would shut them down like they did Jamar Chase the second time they played. But I mean, I don't know why you had to play him again to adjust. Like you can do things mid-game. You saw in the middle of the game TJ Watt kind of yelling at Mike Tomlin. I think he was probably frustrated. He was realizing they are running the same play. He even said in his press conference they ran the same play. And they just refused to adjust. I don't know what the deal was there. And then they couldn't get anything going offensively. They need another receiver, and Aaron Rodgers is coming back off the hand injury. He couldn't even hand the ball off to the right side because he had a big cast on his arm. So anytime they ran the ball to the right, he had to pitch it. So that really hindered the offense. It just really it wasn't a good week for Pittsburgh at all. And I hate to be that guy because Pittsburgh has, I will say, probably they've been spoiled, but I think it's getting to the point now where you have to start having conversations about Mike Tomlin's future. I mean, if he's able to pull something miraculous at the end of the year here, obviously keep him. But I don't think going 9-8 every year is doing enough. I think it gets to a point where you would be better off to just suck for 1 year and get a good draft pick and find your franchise quarterback. Because what they've been dealing with recently has just not been very good. And I think a lot of it is because of the receivers. They don't really have much. They've had George Pickens, but they always just have one guy, and then they don't really have a good two second receiver or third receiver. I think there definitely needs to be some change after this season, especially if they don't do anything for the rest of the year, which I don't really expect. Really not good for Pittsburgh, but like you said, they do control their own destiny. They play the Ravens 2 times, which one of those two teams are likely going to be the division winner
Yeah.
unless the Bengals make a miraculous run. So if they can manage to win at least one of those games, they would still have a chance. You just can't lose both of those.
Right. Yeah, and I think that the Steelers are going to be probably favorites in at least one of those two, the home game. And honestly, the way Lamar's playing right now, you play them this week, you might be a favorite in that game potentially, just because of the concerns of Lamar Jackson's health. He doesn't look healthy at all. Now, the Steelers have their own health problems because Aaron Rodgers clearly is not fully healthy or ready to go. And Rudolph has struggled this year at times when he's come in. And he's had nice games, but he's had really bad moments too. So, big concern there. We did kind of crack the joke off camera that they added Adam Thielen, so they got their wide receiver too. Uh, I Adam Thielen last year for the Panthers wasn't the worst thing ever, and it honestly might not be the worst addition ever. They weren't using him at all with the Vikings, so we don't have any idea if he can do anything. They were just not going to him, and you see how that quarterback situation is. That he's playing with a better quarterback now than he was there. So I don't know. Maybe he does bring him something. It's not going to be Adam Thielen that you saw 5 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. But it could be at least a decently valuable player that could change things. Now, again, he's probably going to be better than any of the options you've been running out there at wide receiver three. But is he going to be better than Calvin Austin? I don't know. Calvin Austin's okay. They just have to find a way to get, like you said, just better offense in general. You got to be able to find ways to go out to different guys. I don't mind the big two tight end sets. Darnell Washington's been really good with the ball in his hands this year. Go out to him more often. Go to Pat Freiermuth, John Smith, whoever you can get the ball to, of course. The tight ends happen to be the best position on their team besides the one receiver that they have, and maybe Kenneth Gainwell out of the backfield. But it'll be interesting. I think that the Steelers can certainly win out and well in their division, especially with those Ravens games. I don't think the Ravens are all that scary right now, so they could make the playoffs. And if they win a playoff game, I think you keep Tomlin. But I think you're right. If you go even 9-8 and make the playoffs and lose again, you might move on from them just because the doing that every year is just it's purgatory to sit there right in the middle of the NFL and just be in the conversation but never be in the conversation, never actually have a chance. So we'll see what happens as the season goes on. Moving on to this next one here, Raiders taking on the Chargers, and the Raiders fans are sitting here and saying, "Boo hoo! The Steelers are 9-8. We would like to win 9 games." The Raiders are really, really bad. They are not a good football team, and they were expecting to compete, which is kind of funny because the Steelers they expect to compete, and they're at least able to do it. The Raiders they expect to compete. They go 2-10 and probably going to have more losses in the near future. This is a really, really bad performance, and you still have the leading passer in the game. Geno Smith, 165, 2 touchdowns, does throw an interception, so it last week looked better, but it's just back to the same old, same old. I think his NFL career is probably hanging on by a thread. They do have an absolute superstar in Brock Bowers. Man, the plays he was making in this game, that touchdown catch he had, is one of the best you'll ever see. Bobbled the ball and brought it in and just made a crazy play. That's the only reason they scored twice is because Brock Bowers is incredible. Ashton Genty's been absolutely bottled up all year. I don't think he's a bad player by any means. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they aren't good and the Raiders' offensive line cannot get any run room for him to go. When you lose a game 31-14, when the other team's quarterback has 150 total passing yards and gets hurt mid-game and Trey Lance comes in, that's a problem with the Raiders. They are really, really bad. I mean, they are horrible. There's a real conversation to be had. They're just as bad as the Titans, and maybe the Saints have even looked better, honestly, than the Raiders. And for the Chargers, you have your concerns. Justin Herbert has a broken hand. Now, it is not his throwing hand, but the concern is he likes to make plays out of the pocket. You aren't doing that now. You're not risking going down and hurting that hand yet again. And like you said with Aaron Rodgers, that limits your ability to do some things in the pocket that you don't even think about. You're offhand. So I think he might sit out a week, and if that happens, it's concerning. They're still 8-4. You're still in the pretty safe in the conversation for the playoffs right now, but you need Justin Herbert moving forward desperately if you want to have a chance, especially when you play the Chiefs coming up down the road. Kamani Vidal was incredible, 25 for 126 and a touchdown. Marion Hampton just came off the IR and was available, but they did not call him up to this game this week. They didn't need him. Kamani Vidal has been really good filling in for him in a few of the games. A couple of the games, they've not had much of a running game. They also got Jarrett Patterson to find the end zone in this one, 11 for 54 on the ground. So when you had the injury to Herbert, you just went to the run game and just pound the rock, get out of there with a big win, 31-14, beat the teams you're supposed to beat, and get ready to play the big time teams. Hopefully they'll have Hampton back healthy, and for them, they desperately need Justin Herbert on the football field to win big time games. So Raiders, they don't have much to look forward to. They are 100% a team looking for a quarterback. I think they will draft a quarterback in this NFL draft. If they could get one of the top two guys, that's the obviously the dream. But they will take one in this draft for sure because Geno's just not the answer. For the Chargers, the playoffs look like they're there. You can reach them, but you need Justin Herbert healthy. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean the this season has really just been a disaster for the Raiders. I mean they drafted Genty hoping he would kind of push him over the edge and picked up Geno hoping for the same thing. And I mean they already had Brock Bowers and then Genty and Geno have just not really been that good. I think a big reason that Genty has not been very good is because of how bad Geno's been. Teams don't really have to respect the pass game too much against the Raiders and they've just been able to kind of focus in on Ashton Genty, and he really has not got things going at all. This season, which has been kind of disappointing, I was kind of interested to see how good he would be in the NFL because I didn't think he had a very good offensive line at Boise. I mean, he was their only option. So I thought if he could do what he did in college with him being the only option for Boise, I was thinking maybe in the NFL he'd be able to be really special, but he has not been that so far. I know he's a great player and he'll definitely be a good NFL player, but just not kind of what everyone was expecting for him his rookie year. But Brock Bowers, like you said, has been incredible this year. He has made some really, really good plays. I would say he's probably the best tight end in the NFL. The Raiders definitely hit a home run with that pick, and I mean they already have other pieces. Max Crosby, he's really, really good, and then like I said, Ashton Genty, he's there. So the Raiders do have some pieces, and they were hoping that would kind of make a playoff push. But man, has this season been far from a playoff push. Like I said, they're in the conversation for the number one pick if the Titans are uh, able to win another game. I guess what to see about that. That'll be another fun race to watch. The race for the first pick, like the playoffs. And then for the Chargers, you really need Herbert healthy. The Chargers are a good team when Herbert's on the field, but Trey Lance is not going to win you a game. I mean, if Trey Lance was the starting quarterback all year, they'd probably be 2-10 as well. So you gotta have Justin Herbert out there. So good win for the Chargers, but like I said, you've gotta have Herbert healthy.
Yeah, yeah, those concerns definitely worry you if this is a serious injury that holds him back from being able to play, especially when you have that matchup with the Chiefs, which if you can win that one, you would hold the tiebreaker over them too. That would be three teams in the AFC playoff hunt that would hold tiebreakers over the Chiefs, making it almost impossible for the Chiefs to make the playoffs this year. Moving on to this next one, the Broncos get it done in an absolute thriller. Now, you didn't think you'd say that when you saw this Commanders team rolling in here, but Marcus Mariota tapped into that Heisman quarterback like conversation that he had back in college, the super fun rookie season with the Titans. He tapped back into it. He had the leading rusher on the day, 10 for 55, and then throws for 294 yards, two touchdowns. The ball was in the air 50 total times from him, and they just pushed it up and down the field and gave his team an absolute chance to win the game. At the very end, the play that I'll talk about to start it off here is the game-winning play. And Mariota, if he just would have had a second longer, could have dropped it right over the linebacker who was pressuring him for a wide open 2 point conversion to win the game. But because of the pressure, he throws it, batted down by Nick Benito, game over. And it looked like the Broncos were going to lose one that you just can't lose. The Commanders are not a good football team this year, especially not without Jaden Daniels. But man, the way Mariota played, I thought for sure they were going to catch that victory. You look down some of the really good offensive statistics for the Commanders is Zach Ertz was incredible, 10 for 106. Terry McLaurin finally getting healthy, 7 for 96. And Deebo Samuel, 5 for 64. So all your guys that you expected to be really good this year had a great game. It's just, unfortunately, you're not healthy, and your defense is just not very good. On the other side with Denver, Bo Nix is awesome in this game, 321 and a touchdown. Does have an interception that could have hurt them, but overall played pretty well. They have no rushing attack now that J.K. Dobbins went down. R.J. Harvey, Jaleel McLaughlin, the guys that they're trying to get the ball to, but they just can't make plays on the ground. So that's a bit concerning for the Broncos going down the stretch is if they get in a game where they need to go out and run the ball and chew the clock out, there's concerns that they won't be able to do that. And there were some concerns in this game that they were unable to get the ball going on the ground. Evan Ingram finally had a really good game, 6 for 79. Sutton, of course, his superstar receiver, has 5 for 62 and a touchdown. So a really good day overall from the Broncos offense. Their ability to score 27 points, throw for 300 plus yards. Your concerns are in the rushing attack. Again, the Broncos get back Pat Surtain, and they have a worse defensive performance, which is interesting than the weeks that they've had before this. So I think he'll be fine moving forward, though. Another big talking point here is they get Dre Greenlaw back at the linebacker position. He was injured towards the beginning of the year. They've got him rolling. He has an interception in this game off of Mariota. And last but not least, they get Talanoa Hufanga back from injury. He has 10 tackles in this game from the safety position and makes a few key plays, breaking up passes. Really, really important that they have Hufanga. If you remember how good he was prior to signing with the Broncos, he was a key piece in his last defense with the Niners. He's also a key piece of the Broncos. They have to have him on the field. So really, really good performance overall from both teams on the offensive side. If you're the Broncos, you want to see a little bit better defensive performance, but you got a close victory. All that matters is a win is a win. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, we saw Tyrod kind of throwing it back on the ground, and now you get the same for Mariota in this game. He played really, really good here, and I think he's done a great job, honestly, filling in for Jaden Daniels all season. He's been fairly impressive in some of the Commanders' games, and then the Broncos, they just keep finding ways to win, man. It's like the Chiefs last year, like I said earlier. Their last four games have been 3-point win, 3-point win, 3-point win, 1-point win. So. Uh,
Uh,
that I mean, like I've said before, though, I think in the playoffs, this is going to help them playing in all these close games. They're going to be in a situation because I mean, almost every playoff game is close. So if you're able to win these close games, then it's definitely beneficial. And I think we've kind of saw that with the Chiefs, like we said. I mean, the past last year and previous years, they've been in a bunch of close games as well and just found ways to win. And obviously, that's helped them in the playoffs as they've been in the Super Bowl a bunch of times. So. I guess we'll see for the Broncos how they do in the playoffs. I'm just uncertain about them, honestly. I think they're a good team, but I don't know that they're 10-2 good, really. I don't put them and the Patriots in the same conversation. I think the Patriots are a much better team, but we'll see once we get to the playoffs. They will probably play once we get there. So. That'll be a fun game to watch. Washington getting back Terry McLaurin was huge as well. He's kind of been hurt all year. You get him back, and I know he had a touchdown and quite a few yards as well. So, but overall, a good win for the Broncos. You didn't have to have it, but you really don't want to drop a game to the Commanders that are 3-9 with a backup quarterback and a really bad defense. So, a good win for the Commanders there, or for the Broncos. And then some promising signs there for the Commanders, obviously staying in a close game with a team with one of the best records in the NFL. So,
Yeah, and again, overall, like you said, I think they're not on that same tier with the Patriots just because they've had so many close games, but that could in turn help them out later in the year. If they get down to a close game, they're going to know how to win them. They've executed those moments. And Bo Nix is a gamer. He is good at the end of games. He does make a lot of plays when his team needs him to. Going on to our Monday Night Football game here, Giants Patriots, a game we expected would probably be pretty favorable for the Patriots, and it was 33-15. They run away with it in the first half. The key talking point here is Christian Ellis was absolutely headhunting. This dude was trying to kill people on the football field. He smokes Jackson Dart. I mean, most quarterbacks don't wake up from that. I think if you hit one of the older guys like that, they probably wouldn't wake up from that. An unbelievable hit on the sideline, a completely legal hit. Jackson Dart stays in bounds. He's got to stop doing that. He's going to get hurt if he takes big hits like that. I mean, he got rocked. It is one of the biggest hits that you will see in modern NFL because they don't let him hit like that anymore. So concerning that Jackson Dart will not get down, will not let himself stay healthy in the NFL. Also, on top of that, with Dart, does not have a great game. Only 139 passing yards and one touchdown. You could argue this is probably one of his worst performances. Some of that could have been that he might have been feeling it the whole game after he took the absolute shot that he got. His receivers aren't great either. Wandale has had a good season, but in this game, 7 catches, only 34 yards, so he couldn't really get going. Darius Slayton does find the end zone in this one. The rushing attack was decent. Devin Singletary, Tyrone Tracy having to carry it with the injury to Cam Scadaboo. You see Singletary there, 68 yards and a touchdown, was the lead guy. On the other side for the Patriots, this is everything you wanted if you're a Patriots fan. You literally got a dynasty back. It feels like it, anyways. With the young quarterback, the young running back, the potential to find a bunch of different weapons in the receiver room. They don't have to go to one guy every week. They can go to whoever they really want to and score 30 points. Travion, like I said before, young running back, 67 total yards. Ramondre has 40 on the day, so he's kind of got his role back as at least a couple carries in the run game. May is the favorite now for sure at the MVP case because, like you said, with Stafford, he kind of lost in that game earlier. And honestly, Drake May, all he's done is win them games. 282, 2 touchdowns, really really good. Finds Hunter Henry 4 for 73, and Kayshon Boutte goes in the end zone once. They also have Stephon Diggs, who didn't even have to do much in this game. 3 catches for 26 yards. Really really impressive. They're coached extremely well. They play incredible defense, and their offense is arguably one of the best in the league. What else can you ask for if you're the Patriots? You're getting everything you want out of the potential to go on and make a huge run. And you see that last part right there. 10 straight wins. When you go on this kind of heater towards the end of the year, you usually carry it into the playoffs for at least a victory or two. So expect the Patriots to keep on rolling. And what a season from Drake May, May. Calling your thoughts.
Yeah, another impressive win here for the Patriots. 10 straight is really incredible in the NFL. Their last loss, I'm pretty sure it was to the Steelers, and that was when they fumbled like five
Yeah.
times and then Drake May threw one of his four interceptions on like the 2 yard line. So they easily could have won that game without all those turnovers. That was when they had Ramondre Stevenson at running back, and man, does he have fumbling issues.
Yeah.
So it's good to see that they finally learned and now have Travion Henderson back there. He's clearly the better back. And then for the Giants, like you mentioned, man, Jackson Dart has got to slide. You saw last week he had to set out because he literally got knocked out on the field the game prior. And then this game, I don't know how he didn't get knocked out from that hit. That was one of the biggest hits I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
So you've got to slide. You're gonna be like your buddy Scadaboo if you don't, and you're gonna end up injured. So he is a really talented player if he can stay healthy.
Yeah.
That is just the big question mark with him so far. So I think the Giants, obviously, they have some really good young players, and once they get back healthy, I think that they'll be a team to watch next year, especially if the defense can improve, which they already have some really good edge rushers as well. But and then for the Patriots, I mean, they just keep winning games. Drake May has been really, really good all year. They've just got so many weapons on the offense with Stephon Diggs and Hunter Henry, and then like I mentioned, Travion Henderson getting him back is or not getting him back, but actually letting him play
Yeah.
has been huge for him. Good win here for the Patriots. I think right now they're probably, in my opinion, the best team in the NFL with the way the Rams played this week. So yeah, I think they're probably my Super Bowl favorite right now.
Yeah, I don't think you get any pushback on that either. And they're also coached by a guy that has won big time games in the playoffs. The year that the Titans went on that run, we beat the Patriots when they had Tom Brady still. That was his last game as a Patriot. We then went on to beat the number one seed 14-2 Ravens. So he knows how to win big time playoff games. And he was a 50-yard scramble from Patrick Mahomes away from winning an AFC championship game with the Tennessee Titans. That shows you the level of coach he can be. So I expect in the big moments, Vrabel's going to have great coaching. Drake May is playing like an MVP. Moving on over to our schedule here with the games coming up this week. Should be another fun week of games. We'll start off with this Thursday night on Prime game. Dallas traveling up to Ford Field in Detroit, Michigan. Should be a really fun one. You still see Detroit as the favorite with the chance that Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't play. A lot of that is the fact that they've got Sam Laporta. They've got two top 12 running backs in NFL. They've got Jamison Williams, who looks like a superstar when Amon-Ra doesn't play. And they have Jared Goff and an offensive line in front of him that is pretty good at keeping him protected in the pocket. They're coached very well. They have a decent defense. So I think they're still a really good team. But if they don't have Amon-Ra St. Brown, my concerns are you can kind of stop the other pieces. The defense for the Cowboys has played better. On Dallas' side, of course, you have Dak Prescott, a guy that you mentioned earlier would be in the MVP case if his team was better. They have two receivers that I don't know how you stop them. This is certainly not a team that has top end corners that can go out there and cover them the entire game. So I'm actually going to take the upset technically with the Dallas Cowboys going into Detroit, getting a massive victory, and continuing the win streak that they're on. They play like this, they win this game, they might be a playoff team. I think they're potentially a playoff favorite if they can win a game like this. One of those teams from the NFC can sneak in. They'd have the tiebreaker over Detroit, which would be a big one because they're going to be right around the same record at the end of the year. So I take the Cowboys going into Detroit and getting a victory.
I'm gonna go with Detroit on this one. I just don't think that they can slide and miss the playoffs like they're on the trajectory to do right now. I think Dan Campbell is too good of a coach, and I think they have too many options outside of Amon-Ra St. Brown, like you said, Sam Laporta, Jamison Williams, and then they've got two really, really good running backs. And then the defense has not been great this year, which is concerning, obviously, playing Dallas, who has one of the best offenses in the NFL. It's really, really, really hard to stop, even even with a good defense. So that will be my biggest concern for Detroit. But I still don't really trust this Dallas defense either. I know they got Quinnen Williams and they've been playing better, but I think that this Detroit offense can be really, really good, and I think that we'll probably see that Thursday night. So I'm
Yeah,
gonna go with Detroit here.
yeah, should be a fun one. Moving on to this next one, Seattle taking on Atlanta. in Mercedes-Benz, and this one isn't as hard of a pick. I'm going to take the Seattle Seahawks here. The defensive performance that they just had last week, on top of the offensive performance they had the week before, no matter who you're playing, when you score 30 points and your top receiver goes for 150 yards, you've got a really good offense. So I think Seattle is just far better than the Falcons, and in a matchup of the birds, give me the Seahawks.
Yep, I'm gonna go with Seattle here as well. Kind of an easy pick. Seattle's been incredible this year, and Atlanta has been really, really disappointing, especially since Penix has gone down with his injury. So I'm gonna go with Seattle.
I will also give a quick shout out to Mercedes-Benz. They have extremely cheap concession prices, and a ticket's 34 bucks. If you're living near Atlanta, this might be one to go attend. You get some cheap concessions, not a bad ticket price, and you can watch Seattle, who's one of the best teams in the league, even if they are beating up on your own hometown Atlanta Falcons. Moving on to this next one, Cincinnati taking on Buffalo in Buffalo. If this game was in Cincinnati and you had that Cincinnati Bengals crowd behind them, I might get crazy and pick the Bengals to win this game because last week they looked dominant. 32-14 victory over the Ravens, which is a team that took the Buffalo Bills to the mark at the end of the game. Honestly, they should have lost that game. So, and the way Buffalo's playing lately with some slip-ups here and there, but you get this in Orchard Park, you get it in New York. Your home crowd is just as crazy as anybody else's. It's a top-tier environment, and Buffalo, I think, will keep rolling here. Give me the Bills to win at home.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Buffalo here as well. Like I said, Cincinnati's coming off a really, really impressive win, but I'm not gonna say it was a really impressive win by Buffalo because they just spammed the same play. Uh, but but nevertheless, they did beat the highest paid defense in the NFL by running the same play, which I think proves that they are a good team, and I think that they will beat Cincinnati here and kind of ruin Cincinnati's playoff hopes.
Yeah, and you might say that the playbook might be run the same play over and over and over and
Awesome.
over. If the Steelers can't stop it, Cincinnati Bengals definitely can't stop it. It'll just be, can Joe Burrow score more points than Buffalo, which I don't expect. James Cook will probably have 30 more carries in this game. Moving on to this next one, Tennessee at Cleveland in $8 tickets because this game is probably going to be a frozen tundra, first of all. Second of all, it's two crap shows of teams, two teams that don't even need to step on the field. Both of them probably would just rather forfeit than play this game. But I will say, should be a fun quarterback matchup. You get Shador Sanders and Cam Ward, two guys that worked out together a ton when they were in college. They trained with the exact same quarterback coach, same one as Kyron Drones. That one went well. Those two quarterbacks worked out a ton together, are pretty good friends. One of the big things that happened during the offseason prior to the draft was Cam Ward said, I'm a gamer and all I do is play football. And Shador Sanders said, well, what do you do for hobbies? You got to have something else you do. And Cam Ward said, no, I'm a football player. You look it up online, Cam Ward, it says American football player. He said, that's all I do. So he talked a little smack. I don't want to win, but I'd like him to outperform Shador just because of that. Myles Garrett probably will have Cam Ward sacked. He might break the sack record in this game because Cam Ward has been sacked a ton this year. Our offensive line has had their own struggles. And you know, Myles Garrett wreaked havoc against Mr. Dan Moore by in Pittsburgh. Mr. Dan Moore is going to have some struggles yet again. Give me the Cleveland Browns. That is a pick that I'm making solely based on the fact that I don't want to win this game. I think Myles Garrett will wreak havoc in this game. I think we can't block him, and our defense is not horrible. We could probably get after Shador a lot too. And honestly, I do kind of feel like we can win this one, but I don't want to win. So give me the Cleveland Browns to get a victory at home in the frozen tundra, which will favor running the ball. The Titans can't do that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I actually, for the first time on the podcast, give me the Tennessee Titans. uh, I think Cam Ward is really gonna want to beat Shadur. Like you said, they're good friends. I don't think that he's just gonna let Tennessee lose this game. The one concern I do have is Dan Moore versus Myles Garrett because I've seen it. I mean, that's how Mason Rudolph ended up with a helmet on his helmet hitting him in the head is because of Dan Moore. So. Uh, I know that that might not end well for Cam Ward, but I am going to go with Tennessee. They did play good 2 weeks ago, did not have a very good performance last week. Same way with Cleveland. They played pretty good 2 weeks ago, did not play very good last week. So we'll see how these two teams can bounce back, but I think Tennessee's going to get their second win of the season here.
Yeah, after the fluky win we had against the Cardinals earlier in the year, that was an interesting one. Moving on to this next one. Another pretty bad game. Washington taking on Minnesota. It ain't gonna be Max Brosmer back there again, I don't think. We might see nine on the field yet again. Washington is playing decent football right now, and I'm actually gonna have the Commanders going on the road, getting a victory in Minnesota. I think Mariota is just the best quarterback on the field by a long shot. I don't think any Viking quarterback has been anywhere near as good as Marcus Mariota. I don't trust their defense at all, and Minnesota's defense is definitely better, but the quarterback is the most important player in any matchup, so give me the Commanders to get it done on the road.
Yeah, I like the Commanders here as well. I don't care who's playing quarterback for Minnesota. None of them are good. So just give me Washington here. Like you said, Mariota's been really good filling in for Jaden Daniels. And anyone that Minnesota's put on the field at quarterback has not been good. So I do like the Commanders here. They did play really good last week, and then Minnesota just got absolutely embarrassed. So I'm going to go with Commanders.
Moving on to our next one here, Miami going on the road to MetLife Stadium. Not a good stadium to have to play in. It is notorious for having a lot of injuries due to the fact that the field is a turf material that is just not all that safe. They have some new turf that is made with cork underneath the grass or the artificial turf, the artificial grass that you have on top, and that is going to be what's in the Titan Stadium. Supposed to be a little bit safer for the players' knees, ankles, Achilles, whatever. But you've seen some serious injuries occur in this building, a lot of them over the years. But I'm not going to have any injuries in this game. I'm just going to have Tua Tagovailoa coming in here and playing like Tua Tagovailoa. If you know what that means, it means it ain't going to be the greatest performance in the world. And give me the Hokies, but I'm talking about Tyrod Taylor to go get a huge win over the Miami Dolphins, get an upset victory in New York. Tyrod leading the Jets to the promised land.
I'm gonna go with Miami here. They have been a little bit surprising here as of late. Tua hasn't been playing great, but Miami's rattled off 3 wins in a row. I think the head coach has been coaching for his job at this point, so they really desperately need to make a run. I think they got a good shot to win here at New York. Tyrod, he played good last week. We'll see how he does this week, but I think Miami just has too many good pieces to lose to the Jets here.
Yeah, and that's probably a reasonable pick, but I had to take Tyrod. With all the recent Hokies news, it just feels like the right time to do it. Moving on to our next one here. New Orleans taking on Tampa Bay in Raymond James Stadium. And Tampa Bay, they've had their own struggles, but they just beat Jacoby Brissett led Cardinals team and were able to hold him to 17 points. He's been throwing for 300 yards a week. I don't think Tyler Shuck is going to throw for 300 yards. I think that the Saints have had some really positive signs, and they can hang around in this game for sure. 8.5 feels a little unfair with the way that they're playing with Tyler Shuck because he can win you big time games potentially in the near future, especially with the receivers he has on the outside. Devon Vele stepping up in a big way, but I just think Tampa Bay's a better football team, and they're getting just a little bit healthier every week. And when they get those guys back, they're going to be scary. So give me the Buccaneers to get a big win here over the New Orleans Saints, but the Saints might cover that spread.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Buccaneers here as well. They desperately need to win this game to keep their playoff hopes alive. Between them and Carolina, it's going to be really close going down the stretch. So I'm gonna go with Tampa Bay to get a win here. Carolina's obviously got the bye, so kind of get a half game on them this week playing the Saints.
Yep, yeah, that'd be a big moment for them trying to separate themselves from the Panthers who are playing some good football. Moving on to this next one, AFC South matchup, and this is a extremely important game between a team that's kind of slowed down and starting to sputter a little bit in the Colts, and then a team in Jacksonville who, can you call them red hot? They're winning games, but they don't look like some incredible football team. So I think that Jacksonville is a decent team. But I honestly think the Colts are a better football team. I think they have a better player in the game in Jonathan Taylor, who's just a superstar. But I have concerns with Daniel Jones. And this Jacksonville team, they've found ways to win games, but I can't pick Jacksonville. I don't think they're good enough. I think Jonathan Taylor will have a good day. Heck, Tony Pollard just ran for a few yards on this team, and he ain't had anything going for him all year. So give me the Colts to finally bounce back and get a win here. Not a Colts fan by any means, but Jonathan Taylor is a dog. I think he finally finds his groove again and beats Jacksonville.
Yeah, I think you're probably right here. I'm gonna go with Indianapolis as well. Like we said, I don't know how good Jacksonville is. I think they're a playoff team probably this year. If as long as they continue to don't just fall apart towards the end of the year. But I just don't know how good that they are. I know Indianapolis can be a really good team, especially when Jonathan Taylor's going and when Daniel Jones is healthy. So I think if they get Jonathan Taylor going, and that is a big if because he's been shut down here as of late, not completely shut down like we said, but not 200 yards and insane games that we were seeing early in the year. I think teams have kind of figured out how to slow him down just a little bit, and that's just enough to get the win and kind of make Daniel Jones beat you. But I do like Indianapolis to get the win here.
Yeah, and this next one here, of course, it is the Steelers. It is your team, and it is probably one of the two biggest games they play all year. They obviously will play Baltimore yet again. It is important you win at least one of these games. You're hoping to win both to try to seal up the division. Pittsburgh going on the road, but I think you're catching Baltimore at the right time in this game. You're playing them where Lamar Jackson clearly is not healthy. He can't run at all. He has no scrambling ability as of today. Now, who knows? Sunday he could figure things out and get going, but I just haven't seen it from him. My concern is Pittsburgh just struggled to stop the same exact run play over and over and over against James Cook. Well, Derrick Henry, you can give him the ball and let him run the exact same run play over and over and over. Now, the Steelers have been better at adjusting from the games they've played in the past. They stopped Jamar Chase from doing the exact same thing. They will go into this game looking to try to stop the exact same thing from happening like happened last week. Pittsburgh concerns me because they don't have a superstar receiver outside of DK Metcalf. They did grab Adam Thielen. How much does that change the game? I don't think it does a whole lot. The run game is pretty good. And Baltimore, again, not impressive at all in the last few weeks. They've barely beat two bad teams, and then they get beat by, what, 20, 18 last week? So I think Pittsburgh, I've been homerish picking with you for them. I think they're catching Baltimore at the right time. I think the 6 point spread is kind of crazy. If Aaron Rodgers was not going to play and the injuries were a big concern, I would say probably take Baltimore just the safe pick. But I don't trust Baltimore at all right now, and I think Pittsburgh, they just faced the super heavy run attack. They're going to be ready for that this week. So give me Pittsburgh to go on the road into Baltimore and beat the Ratbirds.
Yeah, I actually, surprisingly, as much as I've bashed Pittsburgh this week, I'm going to go with you here. I've been picking against Pittsburgh and they've been losing, so maybe if I pick with Pittsburgh, they're going to win. And maybe I can just get all the picks right with the Steelers, so I'll just pick them to win here. Do I think they're going to win the game? Not really, no. I think that, like I said, there's so many concerns with the run game. Although, if there has been one kryptonite for Lamar Jackson, it has been the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, and TJ Watt has been able to get after him. And he's not as mobile as he has been previously when he's played Pittsburgh. So I think that Pittsburgh does have a shot here, but I don't know that the defense can stop Derrick Henry in the run game. Like we saw last week, it was really brutal with James Cook, and you've got a better running back now you're facing in Derrick Henry, and probably a better offensive line since Buffalo had two offensive tackles injured. But I am going to go with Pittsburgh here, like I said, because they've lost the last 2 weeks, and I've picked them to lose the last 2 weeks. So we're gonna go with a win here to try and change things up.
Yeah. And again, I think, like you said, you're just catching Lamar at the right time. You have the potential. I mean, he just played two of his worst games in his career, arguably three of his worst games in the last 3 weeks. And like you said, TJ Watt gets after quarterbacks at a high level. He may not be the same guy he was a few years ago. He's still a very good edge rusher. Baltimore's had their own issues keeping Lamar healthy, keeping him protected in the backfield. I think they're catching him at the right time. That's why I would go with Pittsburgh. Moving on to this next one, we need to talk about this one for maybe 30 seconds. Denver going on the road to Vegas. The spread is actually relatively close because they know Denver likes to play all these super close games. But Denver is going to find a way to win, especially when they play the Las Vegas Raiders. Give me Bo Nix and that offense to get it done.
Yeah, I'm going with Denver here as well, and I mean probably Las Vegas will cover the spread some way somehow, but Denver is going to win.
Yeah, and moving on to this next one here. This should be a really fun game taking place in Lambeau. This was a team for a long time that Aaron Rodgers absolutely owned. They could not beat the Green Bay Packers. Well, Caleb Williams got it done. He did beat the Green Bay Packers. And I don't think it's going to happen again. I think Green Bay is really good. They're rolling right now. And like you said, he hasn't been super impressive this year. He's now facing one of the best edge rushers in the NFL who's had a really good couple of games here recently. I think they're going to get after Chicago. Chicago's on a crazy winning streak. I feel like it's got to end at some point. I don't think they are ready to win a Super Bowl. I think Green Bay might be. Now, the injuries concern me, but they just have the defensive pieces to match up with a pretty good offense. So give me Green Bay in a really close game. I would take Chicago with 6.5 points, but I like Green Bay to win overall.
Yeah, I like. I'm actually going to go with Chicago here. Both these teams are really hot right now, and I think this is going to be a super fun game to watch. But I just like Chicago. I think Ben Johnson is an excellent coach. I think he'll have a game plan to kind of not completely eliminate, obviously, but kind of slow down Micah Parsons and the effect that he can have. And if there's anyone that can scheme up a offense against Green Bay's really good defense, I think it is Ben Johnson. And then I think Caleb Williams can do just enough to win the game here.
Yeah, yeah, should be a fun one. Moving on to this next one here, LA taking on Arizona in Glendale. Arizona, they're probably going to find a way to move the ball up and down the field pretty well because Jacoby Brissett is just having an awesome season. He got Marvin Harrison back, Trey McBride, arguably the second best tight end. You could argue him with first over Brock Bowers. I think Bowers is the best, but he's in that conversation. So the weapons are there. The run game, it isn't all that great, but Bam Knight did just have one of his better games. So Arizona's going to find a way to stick around in it probably because of the high-powered offense, but no way does LA have back-to-back weeks where they fumble around and don't play good. Stafford's just setting himself up to start another huge streak of touchdowns with no interceptions. So I think LA is the far better team. They're going to get after Brissett a little bit with that really good defense, and I just think they have enough firepower. So give me LA to get a huge win here over Arizona.
Yeah, I like LA here as well. As long as the NFL doesn't post a picture of Stafford with caption 9, we should be good. Yeah, the Rams are just too good of a team to lose to the Cardinals this week, especially after dropping the game to the Panthers last week. Honestly, though, I would pay $23 to watch this game just because of how fun Arizona's offense has been to watch, and the Rams' offense is obviously really fun to watch as well. I think that $23 would be a steal to go to this game.
Yeah, and I'd probably take that over too at 48.5. Unless something crazy happens and LA is just wrecking havoc on Brissett, there should be a lot of points scored in this game. Now, I do think LA's defense is really good, but I just expect them to, they're on their own, could probably score 35. So, I mean, Arizona just would need to score, 14 points, or it just, that would be that. I mean, even with a blowout win, you'd cover that over under at 48.5. But you're right, 100%. That should be a fun one if you were a fan and living in the area to attend. We'll move on to this next one here. This is crazy. $52 tickets to get into Arrowhead Stadium. I think part of that has to be that it's going to be freezing cold in Missouri. Kansas City does get some snow games towards the end of the year, but we have Houston going on the road to Kansas City. Houston is kind of hot right now. They're winning their games. They won some games with Davis Mills. They now have CJ Stroud back and ready to go. They've actually kind of found a way to beat Kansas City. Had a couple games in the past where it's been close, but Kansas City, they're interesting. They pretty much have to win 4 of the last 5 games to have a chance for the playoffs because of all the teams they don't have the tiebreaker over. You lose this one, there's another team that's in the conversation that you wouldn't have a tiebreaker over. If that happens, you almost guarantee yourself out of the playoffs with all those teams having tiebreaks over you. I don't think you're going to come back and win your division. They're 10-2. Denver's 10-2. So, I mean, man, this is a really, really big one for Kansas City. I picked them to win last week against the Cowboys. They lost. My hope is the jinx will happen yet again. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs to catch a victory here in Arrowhead Stadium. This should be a really fun game to tune into, and I think the Chiefs will get it done, but I'm hoping that that backfires for them. Your thoughts here?
Yeah, like you said, the Chiefs cannot afford to lose this game. That gives the Texans another head-to-head victory, which would put them ahead of the Chiefs if they were to have the same record at the end of the year. Both of these teams are obviously looking to make the playoffs, but I've said it time and time again, I've never picked against Patrick Mahomes, but I'm going to do it here. I'm going to go with
Oh,
Houston. I'm going to go with Houston and for the first time pick against Patrick Mahomes. I think Houston's defense is just really, really good, especially as of late. And I think CJ Stroud can do just enough to beat this Chiefs team who has really been struggling as of late.
yeah, and Colin changing his pick at this point. That's him saying, I think they're not a playoff team anymore. That's the moment that he switched up on the Kansas City Chiefs. We will remember that as podcast history, NFL talk wise. So you have a week where you pick the Titans to win and the Chiefs to lose. Two not happened on the podcast yet moments.
The
Uh,
Titans beating the Chiefs.
yeah, yeah. Moving on to this Monday night football game here. Philadelphia taking on LA. And if you get a healthy Justin Herbert, I think the LA Chargers can win this football game. The Eagles have not played great football as of late. They really don't have much of a rushing attack. And defensively, the secondary that was really good last year has had some issues. They don't pressure the quarterback at a super high level. Problem: LA's playing without their two best tackles. They've had issues to keep Herbert up. That's why he's hurt right now. But I think that LA getting back a Marion Hampton is a big deal. They can outrush the Philadelphia Eagles because LA's defense has actually looked a lot better since making some of the trades that they make. Harbaugh's a phenomenal coach. It's a game that you probably need a win to try to stay ahead of everybody else in the AFC. Although this is not an opponent there, you got to keep your record in a good place. I think Justin Herbert's going to be healthy. I think he's going to be ready to go. If he's unavailable, I would take the Eagles. But if Justin Herbert is playing this game, and I think he will, give me the LA Chargers to get an upset victory at home against the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagles just keep on losing games.
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with the Eagles on this one. I just don't know that the Eagles can keep dropping games. I think this game is going to be really, really close. I was about to go with Los Angeles, but in the last second, my mind flipped to Philadelphia. So I do like the Eagles here. I think Saquon might get going. I think it's huge that the Chargers are getting back Marion Hampton. Vidal has not been bad, but I think Hampton is like in a whole nother level of running back. So I think that'll be huge for the Chargers, especially if Herbert's not completely healthy, which I'm not sure that he will be. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here.
Yep, and last but not least, I will say, watch out for these bye weeks. Fantasy football. Some people are going into their playoffs. I do have a ESPN fantasy league where I just snuck in. I scored the most points in the league, but my team is 7-6. Explain that, I don't know. Just unlucky, I guess, as the year has gone on. I just so happen to have a Marion Hampton, Cam Scatterbo, and Josh Jacobs, all three running backs who have faced injuries this season. So that could be part of it. But I got in there. I'm the sixth seed. I feel really good. I feel like I can win that because I've scored the most points. You can't feel bad. Issue: Tedero McMillan, a big part of that team. Bye week. Issue: George Kittle, big part of that team. Bye week. Very concerning. That's why you probably shouldn't have your playoffs week 14. You should have them 15, 16, and 17 when there's no bye weeks going on. But I didn't start the league. I just joined it. I'm just trying to get out of there with a little bit of money. We'll see what happens. But do pay attention if you guys have big matchups. Those teams are not going to be in action. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. Had a really good time reviewing those games, obviously making our picks as well. And Colin, with some first times on the podcast, like I said during our pick segment, should be interesting to see how those games play out. Don't win Titans and Chiefs. I hope you lose. I hope that's exactly how it works. Is that you can curse the Titans by picking them and they lose, and then the other way around for the Chiefs. But obviously, it should be really fun to see all the games in action this week. We have some really fun ones. We do have a bunch of good games, which there's been some weeks where we haven't had all that great of a schedule. So with all those good games, that should be really fun. You have a very, very important one coming up for your team. If you have anything you want to add, do so now.
Yeah, hopefully Pittsburgh can get a huge win against Baltimore. If you do drop that game, it's really not great for you, although Baltimore does have a tough schedule coming up. Pittsburgh does as well. So I think that the division's really going to come down to that last game, which is in Pittsburgh, which I think kind of favors Pittsburgh. It would, if you can beat them in Baltimore, that would just be massive. I don't know that you could. I think your chances of winning the division increase exponentially if you win this game this week. So it's huge for them. Uh, Also, I do want to mention Formula One, the last race of the season is this week. Hopefully, Max can get his fifth straight championship.
Yeah, there's a little F1 talk. We haven't had that on the podcast before. But Colin, of course, Max Verstappen, know who you're talking about. I at least know the big names in the sport. He is incredible. You would probably compare him to a young Patrick Mahomes. That's what you'd probably say
Yes.
Max Verstappen is. But it will be really fun to watch all these games. Like I said before, stay tuned. We will have an NFL draft, mock draft video coming out pretty soon. There should be some shakeups. We also might have some interesting things happen. We may have a trade mock because there's some teams that might want to move up for a quarterback, and the Titans are necessarily trying to pick a quarterback. We want to move down. So we might do that, work with a trade mock. I'll get probably Colin and Hoppy on that soon. Maybe we can get one out this week if you guys are paying much attention. We maybe get it out Friday or something like that. But should be really fun. Pay attention to my college football stuff. I will be making the picks for all the conference championship games that are taking place. And that last college football playoff ranking comes out Sunday after every single game is done on Saturday. You should see Sunday that playoff ranking. That's the one we're going to get to see who makes the playoffs in college football. So it should be really fun. There's going to be a lot of teams right on the border and potentially a ACC-less playoff where Duke somehow beats UVA and then doesn't get in the playoffs because they're 8-5 if they were to win that game. Weirdest possible situation, but we could have two group of five teams in the playoffs. Man, would that be odd. But if you guys have enjoyed, please like, subscribe, comment. It helps the channel out a ton. And we will see you guys in the near future with a mock draft potentially. But if not, then come back next Wednesday for some more NFL talk as we'll keep doing this weekly throughout until the Super Bowl ends. We'll see you guys next time. Peace.
Peace.